Hello everyone, welcome here to Musicians Edition. I'm Evan, as always, here on the guitar. And if you've been following my videos recently, I've been putting up a lot of videos on guitar chords, which is including the cage system. Those chords you can just play nice and easy down here, C, A, G, E, D, as well as going into some bar chords. And so I thought it'd be a good idea before I jump any further into bar chords or more advanced chords across the guitar, that I should go over just a good resource of all the chords you can play that are very common to use. Down over here, more openly, kind of similar to those cage system ones where you can avoid having a bar if that is something you struggle with. These are good ones that you can just move quicker between as well too if you don't have to deal with what you're barring. As well as you can use a capo to move up and down the guitar to really change those chords into different chords and transpose them. If you're a singer, it's a great tool so you can find a combination of chords that fits your range a bit better. Or you can just find whichever ones sound the nicest as you kind of move up and down the guitar as well too. You can take that combination you created, that chord progression you made, and use your capo to move it up and down to really take on different keys. But the good part about this is I'm going to just give you guys one big resource, one big chord chart, and this is the one that I actually use and I have up on my wall. That's going to have really all the common chord choices you can play that aren't too difficult to play. That's going to go A through G alphabetical. We'll have some chords from each of these. But we're going to be skipping out on the sharps and flats chords in this one. We're just going to be sticking with regular A, B, C, D, E, F, G chords. And we will dive into those sharps and flats chords in future videos though. All right, so we're going to see those common majors, those common minors. We're going to see minor sevens, major sevens, some sevens, and so we'll kind of go over what each of those entails. There's a lot of chords on here, so I won't go over each of them in particular, but I'll go over how you can read all these chord boxes, and we'll talk about how we can use them as well too. So without further ado, this is our chord chart. And so I really do recommend you have something similar to this up on your wall, something that you can refer to as you're playing guitar. If you do find yourself playing a lot of guitar chords and you want to just have practice moving between them or making sure you know how to play all the different kinds of ones for any songs you might encounter, or if you are just kind of composing and putting together your own combinations of chords and progressions. So this is pretty easy to follow if you know how to read chord boxes. If that's something that is new to you, make sure you go check out my previous video that does go over chord boxes and the features that you are looking out for so you can know how to play these. But I will go over the main parts of this as we look at these chords here. Really the biggest thing to pay attention to is look out for those X's for strings you're not going to play. They do have recommendations with finger numbers for what fingers to fret with, and with your fretting hand here, 1 for your index, 2 for middle, 3 for your ring, and 4 for your pinky finger. So we're going to use those 4 fingers to fret here. We're not going to do any barring on here once again. But with those finger numbers, it's not anything that is strict. It's always people have different hand shapes and sizes and how they can move their hands. And so I don't even use the same really fretting combination with every instance of those chords. I kind of change it up depending on what chords came before or after so I can move quicker between those chords. So it's not always the same shape that I use with which fingers are going to be fretted on which spots. All right, but let's go ahead and look at this. So again, with A through G on here, we're starting off with A in a few different forms here. So we're going to be looking at A major, A7, A minor 7, and an A major 7. And that's kind of all the different combinations we're going to see with these different kinds of chords. So A has one of all these different kinds of chord combinations we're going to be seeing here. So let's go ahead and start with that one and break each of these down. So with A on all these, the A root note we're going to be playing is the open A string. So we aren't going to be playing the low E on any of these. So that's going to have the X with it, so we don't have to touch that string. Just these top 5 strings we're going to be playing. And so A major, which is just shown as A on here, should be a pretty common chord that hopefully you know how to play. But open A, we're going to fret 2nd fret here, here, and here with the high E played openly. Okay, so figure out what is the best way for you to cram 3 fingers in there. On here it says 1, 2, then 3, but kind of whatever really works for you. To get 3 fingers on there. And you do want them to be as close up on the 2nd fret as you can, so up here versus down here. But, you know, whatever gets the job done so you get a clean sounding chord is what you want to go for. All right, A major. So A major is just played with the 1, major 3, and then 5 with A. So that's A, C sharp, and E are the 3 notes that we're playing here. We're playing 5 strings, so we're just playing different versions of A, C sharp, and E pretty much. And that is A major. And to turn A major into our next one, which is A7, we're going to lift up our middle finger and just play that same thing, where we have this open string played in between these 2 2nd frets now. So open, second, open, second, open is what we have. You can also just play with, index and middle finger. Biggest thing is just making sure you have all these open strings actually playing openly and not touching your fingers. I took a bit of practice down to figure out how to get those fingers in there to do so. But I'm using index, I'm using middle finger, and getting all those strings to play nicely there. So in A7 chord, like I just played, this one's kind of a bit trickier to understand. What we're really playing here is A, C sharp, and E, same ones that we played with A major, except we turned one of those A's into a G. And so that's really the minor 7th note in the A major scale. And so A major 7, which we're going to see in just a bit, has G sharp, which sounds a bit nicer. If we go to G instead of that G sharp, that minor 7th, it sounds a bit different there, but kind of darker, I'd say. So all we did to turn that A major into A7 was lift up from A, and that A was played right here on the 2nd fret of this string. We lift it up, and now we play that string openly, and it turns it to a G. So A, C sharp, E, and G make up that A7 chord. All right, and A minor, another very common one I hope you guys know how to play. There's A minor, so we play A open, second, 1st fret, and then open up here. So we turn that A major into an A minor by kind of just really sliding one finger over from the 2nd fret to the 1st fret. That turns a C sharp into a C, and A, C, and E are the 3 notes that make up our A minor chord. The 1, minor 3, and then the 5 for that A scale. A minor getting turned into A minor 7. We're just gonna lift up one finger, and what we end up with is open, 2nd fret, open, 1st fret, open. Another very, very common chord that pops up all over the place, A minor 7. So what I did here to turn the A minor into an A minor 7 is what I did with that A7, where I'm lifting up from A, and it turns into a G. So I'm really playing A, C, E, G, the 1, minor 3, the 5, and the minor 7. That's what a minor 7th chord has. And our last one, we've got A major 7. So A major 7, we're playing open, 2nd fret, 1st fret, 2nd fret, open. So this is the one instead of that A7 that was playing a G, this is playing that G sharp, which is that major 7 in the key. So we're playing the 1, major 3rd, 5th, and then major 7th to make up this A major 7th chord. And you don't really need to know what notes you're playing technically with these. You can just kind of pick your variation that you like that kind of goes with what scale you're playing and what key you're in, and with what matches best with the mood and the other chords you have going for it. But I kind of explained it for just this first set in A because these are all the different kinds of chords you're going to see in the rest of this chord chart. So if you are interested in that part of it, now you know. Now we're going to go ahead and look at these other chords, not as much in detail, but just making sure you can understand what's up on here for these chord charts and be able to play it. So B is not one that's going to have as many forms because B is best played when you bar it on the 2nd fret there. So you can't play as many variations of it because A has so many variations because you get that A root note played openly. To get B, you have to go up here on the 2nd fret. So it's not as many options for you to choose from for B, but we have 2 of them, B7 and B minor. So B7, we want to have B as our root note. So we're not going to play low E again. We're going to play the 2nd fret of the A string, which gets us B. And then for B7, we're going to play this first B with our middle finger. Index finger, which is our 1, is going to be playing on the 1st fret of the string below it. We're going to play our ring finger on the string below that on the 2nd fret. Skip one string, we'll play this one open, and that high E is played 2nd fret with our pinky, as you can see in our chord box. And we get a B7. Just making sure that we are able to play this one open string actually open and get a clean sound from it, and making sure your ring and pinky are not touching it. That's just something to be aware of as you're playing this, but we get a B7 right there with all 5 strings playing. All right, and B minor, this is one that's also a little kind of unconventional as well. To play B minor, we're going to jump up to our 4th fret, and we're going to be playing, we got 2 X's on these 2 low strings, so we're not going to be playing E or the A string actually. For B minor, we're just going to be playing these 2 on the 4th fret. So 4th fret, 4th fret. Next string is going to be down on the 3rd fret. String after that is down on the 2nd fret. So I'm going to play that with my ring finger, my pinky, my middle, and then my index over here. That's B minor. All right, and we do get the same idea with the rest of these, so I'm not really going to talk about them too much, but I'll go ahead and just play them one time really quickly. This is my actual chord chart that I do have up on my wall, so some of these I do have an extra note filled in that's kind of an optional note, and you see one of those in A minor 7 where I've got an optional note on that high E that you can also play to add a bit of extra to that chord. Same with C major 7, you can see another one there, where instead of just playing C major 7 with those bottom 3 strings open, you can press that pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E and play an extra note on there as well too if you prefer. So it gives you some different options to play with. But just going through the rest of these really quickly. C, which is just a C major chord. I hope this one's pretty familiar for you guys. So we have X, 3, 2, open, 1, open, C major. Turn it to a C7. We're going to add one extra note here where I'm just going to press my pinky down on this one extra note, and you can see the difference from C to C7. Just pressing one pinky down on the 3rd fret. That turns a C into C7. There it is. C major 7, just kind of lifting up and only having 2 fingers pressed, these top 2 that were on here. C major 7, right there. All right, next up we have D. So we get D by playing the D string openly here. So we're not going to play E or A for this one. To play D, we're just going to be playing 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd frets with that D string open. There's D. D7, we kind of just have it now be 2, 1, 2. So I'm going to play middle, index, and then ring. There's D7. Next up we have D minor, which now we're going to be playing 2, 3, 1. D minor 7. For this one, I typically will, since I have these 2 notes right here, I'll typically just use my index finger to play them both. And then I have the 2nd fret with my middle finger, but you can, use 2 fingers. You can use your index and middle and then your ring over on this other one. It's kind of just easier for me to press both with the same finger though and play ring or middle finger on this other note. D minor 7 once again. And then D major 7 is easily played if I just use my one index finger and kind of press it all on these 3 strings. D major 7, if you prefer, you can squeeze 3 fingers on there, but it's much easier for me to just press. And I'm only barring these top 3, leaving D open right there. E, another very common chord. So E is hopefully familiar. We're playing E openly, 2nd, 2nd, 1st fret for E. We can get an E7 by just lifting up one finger. So here's E7. I pretty much lifted up like my where my ring finger was, so I'm now playing open 2, open 1 for E7. Next is E minor, so I'm going to press that ring finger back on but lift up my index. Open 2, 2, the rest are open. E minor, very easy. And E minor 7, I can get away with by playing those same 2 fingers on E minor, but I'm gonna go ahead and add my pinky or my ring finger, but for me, I think my pinky's easiest. 2 strings higher on the 3rd fret. So it changes up that chord a bit. This can also be accomplished, and I think it's easier if you just lift up one finger, and for an E minor 7, you can just fret one finger on the 2nd fret here, but whatever kind of voicing you prefer, but you can play it with just that one finger for an E minor 7. F, this one doesn't have as many options because this is one that is on the 1st fret here. That's where F really is. And so this is best found by barring, but we're not barring here. We're gonna take an easier route. And so I can cut out a few of those strings, and so I'm not gonna play E and A. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of do a mini bar of these 2 strings right here. I'm gonna go 1 string higher on the 2nd fret, and then 1 string higher than that on the 3rd fret. And whatever works for you there, whatever combination of fingers, I can get a nice clean F sound like that with my pinky, middle, and index fingers working. You can also, if your ring finger can stretch where you need it to go, works like that too. F major 7, same idea, except we're just gonna lift up this kind of index finger, not bar both of those. This high E should be played openly because we want E to play because that's our major 7. Rest of the others are played in the same spots though. So 4 strings once again. We have a high E played openly, and then 1st, 2nd, 3rd fret going down from there. All right, G, this one's nice and easy to play, so there's kind of 2 options for this one. You can go ahead and just play it with 3, 2, open, 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 then 3 up here. That's the easier way to play this. Or you can also add 1 extra note on here if you prefer. And you can play 3, 2, open, open, 3, 3. So that kind of changes how you play it, because if you're not going to play the extra 3, I'm going to use ring finger followed by middle finger, and then just pinky played up here on the 3rd fret there. But if I need to add in that extra 3, I'm going to go ahead and do it with my middle finger on the high 3, or I guess the low E playing G there, and then index finger playing the 2nd fret. My ring finger is going to play 3 there, followed by pinky there. And that's how I can play G in 2 different ways. And then finishing off with our very last chord, and that's going to be a G7. So we just have our pinky, really where our spot where our pinky was is going to move from the 3rd fret down to the 1st. So let's figure out the best way to do that. We can get our ring finger, middle finger, so still 3 and 2 there. And then I'm going to use my index on the 1st fret of the high E. And that gets me a G7 there. All right, and that is all of those. We've got a lot of chord options that we can use here, which is great because there's a lot of chords used in a lot of different songs, and it gives us a lot of flexibility hearing these different chord voicings and adding some more variety into our playing instead of just using majors and minors. We got minor 7ths, 7ths, major 7ths, those kind of options that we can choose from now, from A through G. But you can see some of these chords like B and F, for example, they don't have as many options that we can play because they're harder to play some of those other kind of chord types. And so for B, for example, we only had B minor and we had B7. What if we want to play just a regular B major or a B minor 7? Well, what we can do is we can use our capo and see what spot it's going to go in best for us to play the chords that we want to play. Whether we're trying to follow along with chords that we're reading, or if we just want to play around with different spots for chords that we want to play, or whatever fits our voice the best if we're a singer and we want to have, you know, our range match up with what we're playing on the guitar. That's where the capo is going to come in. So, for example, we looked at an A minor chord, played with that kind of open A, played openly, and then 2, 2, 1 after that. I can turn that A minor chord and say, hey, I don't see a C minor on this sheet here. But what if I want to play a C minor? So to go from A to C, we go up 3 notes because we have A, and then we go up 1 to A sharp, B, and then C. So 3 notes. So I can find C if I want that as my root note right here on the 3rd fret. So I'm going to put my capo on the 3rd fret. Play that same A minor shape. But now this is actually a C minor because I'm using my friend here. So this turned from an A minor, still the same exact shape I'm going to play, but now this is actually a C minor. So if I'm matching up with somebody else, or I have something else laid down that's already kind of in this key, and I need to match up with that, I can do this by using my capo and just playing that same shape and just being aware of the fact that now this is 3 notes higher. So this is now a C minor chord. And so really what that means is that the rest of my chords are not what it says on the chart, but they're actually 3 notes higher. But if that's too kind of complicated for you to think about while you're just trying to play or come up with progressions or whatever it is that you're doing, you can still think of the shapes as what they are and come with the progressions like that. But just when you're done with them, note that the chords you actually played are not the same shapes as what you played on here. And which really only comes into play if you're layering other instruments with what you're playing, or if you're kind of communicating to other people in a band or whatever, what chords or what key you're in, just making sure that everything that's playing is fitting in the same key and that I'm not actually playing an A minor, I'm playing that A minor shape, but really it's a C minor chord. But when you're coming with progressions or just kind of playing along to whatever you want to do, you don't really need to think about that. Just follow along with what shape you're playing and just kind of move between chords like that and get familiar with that as much as you can, instead of having everything confusing and having to think I have to go up 3 for all these. Because even on tab websites that you read online when you're looking at new songs to play, like Ultimate Guitar tabs, they just put where the capo is, but then for the rest of the song that's listed on there, it's just the shapes. So it's really easy to follow and read along with. So if you know all these shapes, you can play a lot of songs that you hear, because in their original form down here, they're very common, but throw a capo on there and they're, again, very common to play just with that capo. And you can play a whole lot of songs like that. So again, don't get confused with the whole capo means my chords are shifted up. The biggest thing that comes into play here is just when you're playing along with other instruments, you want all of them to be in the same key. But knowing these shapes is a great tool for you being able to come up with your own progressions. If you're a singer, it's nice to be able to use this capo to move up to the different ranges that you're comfortable with. Or, you know, reading it on tab websites, all you need to know is the shape and where that capo is going to go if that song is using one. So that is it for this lesson on following along with a chord chart. So I hope this was useful for you guys. Again, you don't have to use that capo. You can just play with those cage system, but you can always throw in that capo to add a bit more variety and some more different chord options for you. But this is something that I hope you all can get familiar with and see the use for, because knowing the common chord shapes is going to make it very easy for you to be able to play any kind of song you see, because obviously the majority of songs are going to use these common chord shapes and voicings, so you'll be able to pick those up a lot quicker. And so you can always practice using these by just going ahead and picking maybe 4, maybe 2, maybe 3, you know, a few different ones that you're going to change between and come up with your own progression with or without that capo as you get used to playing these different chord shapes up and down your guitar. So have fun playing, and we'll see you next time.